to solve the climate problem, but there are two essential requirements. 1. A simple across-the-board, all fossil fuels, rising carbon fee. 2. Collected from fossil fuel companies at the domestic source, mine or port of entry, not a carbon price scheme, and the money must go to the public, not to government coffers, otherwise the public will not allow the fee to rise as needed for phase over to clean energy. 2. Honest government support for, rather than strangulation of, road and research, development and demonstration, of clean energy technologies, including advanced generation, safe nuclear power. Courts are crucial to solution of the climate problem. The climate problem was and is an opportunity for transformation to a clean energy future, but for the worldwide lack of executive leadership and well-paid subservience of legislatures to the fossil fuel industry. The heavy hand of the fossil fuel industry works mostly in legal ways, such as the I'm an Energy Voter campaign in the US. Failure of executive and legislative branches to deal with climate change makes it essential for courts, less subject to pressure and bribery from special financial interests, to step in and protect young people, as they did minorities in the case of civil rights. Equal rights and trust justifications are both needed. The first lawsuit filed by Our Children's Trust against the U.S. government, Allegel et al. v. Jackson et al., with science based on our PLOS I paper, Hansen et al., 2013, to lost in the United States D.C. District Court, on grounds that we had not made the constitutional basis clear enough. Our new case in the U.S. District Court in Oregon, Juliana et al. v. United States, puts comparable emphasis on the atmospheric trust concept developed by Mary Wood and equal rights concept in the equal protection of the laws and due process clauses of the U.S. Constitution. Julia Olson, founder and leader of Our Children's Trust, gave a brilliant, compelling presentation on 13 September. Principles for the trust concept, as discussed in John Davidson's declaration that I noted earlier, extend back to Greek and Roman law articulated by Cicero, through intergenerational rights and justice articulated by English theorists such as John Locke, to a concern of American founders for unalienable rights of future generations, expressed in their letters, the Virginia Bill of Rights, and in our Declaration of Independence and Constitution. Sophie, my oldest grandchild and a fellow plaintiff in the federal lawsuit, and I are especially attracted by the simple concept of equal rights, with its preeminent position in the minds of our nation's founders, the Declaration of Independence beginning. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, while the Constitution begins, we the people of the United States, in order to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution. The 5th and 14th Amendments together assure equal protection of the laws and due process. People should not be deprived of life, liberty or property without due process of law. While these are U.S.-centric, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is generally agreed to be the foundation of international human rights law, describes similar rights. The trust and equal rights concepts are stronger together. In some countries one or the other may be more fitting, so it is worth developing both of them. Assertions and insights at the hearing. The transcript makes clear, I believe, that the defense is grasping at straws and will fail in their effort to get the case dismissed. As just noted, however, it is important to see on what basis the case is allowed to go forward. The presiding judge, the Honorable Ann Aiken, was prepared on all arguments from both sides and provided insights about some of their flaws. The defense argued that young people do not have standing to sue, because the government has done nothing to make them a suspect class that can be discriminated against. Young people are created in the usual way, and the government need not do anything to make young people and future generations different than the generation that is running the government and making decisions that can dramatically affect the former's life, liberty, property and pursuit of happiness. The older generation is now burning the fossil fuels, getting the benefits, unwittingly leaving a mess for young people to try to clean up. As Sophie says, that's not fair. See video. The defense insists that the government could only be blamed for creating danger for young people if the government had taken affirmative action to create that danger, and, they say, the government took no affirmative action. Apparently, as Julie Olson points out, they do not want to count permits for extraction, drilling, exports and imports, transmission lines and pipelines, all to accommodate the fossil fuel energies, as part of the totality of national energy policies that the defendants are responsible for. And this is not to mention the military forces used to protect fossil fuel supply lines, most of which was never paid for, but was left as debt for young people to somehow pay for in the future, all for the benefit of the old and the problem of the young. Judge Aiken noted the phrase "all deliberate speed," which played an important role in civil rights, a careful statement in the 1954 Brown v. Board of Education decision. The court could not meddle in the details of lawmaking and administration, but it could require that the other branches of government take actions that provide for civil rights with all deliberate speed, a phrase that was associated with the much-respected Oliver Wendell Holmes. However, after 10 years, Justice Hugo Black declared in 1964 that the time for mere deliberate speed has run out, because the phrase was being used to delay compliance with the court order. All deliberate speed will be a dominant issue for climate. Our governments have not accepted the reality dictated by the laws of physics and climate science. We must phase out fossil fuel emissions rapidly. Mother Nature will not wait for bumbling half-baked government schemes for reducing emissions. It will be essential that the court not only demand all deliberate speed, but continually examine the reality of what the government is accomplishing, and that the government have both short-term and long-term plans of action. Funding for worldwide carbon sequestration and trace gas reductions. Young People's Burden makes clear that rapid reduction of fossil fuel emissions is the most important requirement to assure prospects of young people, but it is not enough. It is also necessary to have a large drawdown of atmospheric CO2 via improved agricultural and forestry practices, and to have multiple actions that limit the growth of or even achieve reduction of other trace gases. These actions will need to occur nearly worldwide, especially in developing countries, and, even though there are some local benefits of many of these actions, substantial resources will be needed to see their realization. Here is where legal action is almost surely required. Just as the tobacco industry was required to pay compensation to the public for health damage of smoking, so the fossil fuel industry should be required to pay, in view of the great largesse it has received from the public and the damage it is inflicting on young people and worldwide. Administration of these funds should be such as to continually evaluate and reward those countries that are most successful in taking the needed actions that store carbon and reduce trace gas abundances, thus avoiding graft and funds misuse. 1. J. Hansen, M. Sato, P. Kesher, K. Von Schuckman, D. J. Beerling, J. Cow, S. Marcotte, V. Massendel Mott, M. J. Prather, E. J. Rolling, J. Shakun and P. Smith. 2. Do not be misled by politicians' use of the phrase price on carbon or carbon price. This is almost always a code phrase indicating they have worked out a scheme with special interests, or plan to work out a scheme.